If you're listening to this, there's a good chance you work within the real estate investing industry. There's another good chance that you would like to increase the sales of your products or services. Well, you're in the right place. United States Real Estate Investor is a platform you need to place your brand directly in front of your target audience. With our focused, growing audience of real estate investing beginners, enthusiasts, and seasoned professionals, you can continually reach our captivated viewers and listeners with ease. To learn more or to get started today, just visit UnitedStatesRealEstateInvestor.com/advertising. That's UnitedStatesRealEstateInvestor.com/advertising. Get ready to increase your brand awareness and your bottom line. Attract clients with content.
Universe. Media. Network. 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 Network.
Welcome to This Month in Real Estate Investing, where we separate the noise from the news. I'm your host, James Brown, and I show people how they can make safe, secure returns through our pre-vetted passive investments. Feel free to download our ebook, The Astute Investor, the top 10 mistakes investors make and how to avoid them. You can also join our private investor club, so you get exclusive opportunity alerts that we don't advertise to the general public. Just go to acceleratemycapital.com. In this episode, we're going to be breaking down a variety of real estate investing news items, including Detroit sues blockchain rental giant, Jake Paul buys massive Georgia ranch, and Texas floods destroy homes, raises risks. Don't forget, if you're watching live on YouTube, you can share your thoughts and post questions during the show that we can jump in and answer. So let's start the show. All right, our guests today are Paul Anderson and James Wang. Paul, why don't you jump in first and just let people know what you're all about, your background in investing and stuff.
Awesome. Thank you, James. Good to be back. So everyone, my name's Paul Anderson. I literally grew up in real estate. So I started helping my dad when I was 8 years old on the residential side. My background is more on commercial acquisition and finance, but over the years, I've done a lot of passive investing, syndication work, development, long and short-term hold. So if it sits on dirt or you can live in it, I've usually kind of played with it, but my major emphasis is really on commercial acquisition funding.
Awesome. James Wang.
Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. My name's James Wang. I'm a co-founder and CEO of REIA. So we actually, the REIA is actually the only company with a portfolio of AI patents for real estate advanced applications. And right now, actually, I started real estate investment like back in 2008 after the crash, and I see firsthand how the different situations of the whole procedure, and then see what's needed. So I later in 2017 we started the company, and we built a lot of unique AI models or unique applications. So right now we're actually rolling out a new feature called Free Home World, and actually is helping people doing real estate investment overseas. Special pricing or special programs that people can take advantage of, some special government subsidies or some special programs, and get some unique investment properties overseas. So I'd love to share more information later.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Cool. Well, thanks guys for being here today, taking the time on a Saturday.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into the news. So our first article is from the National Association of Realtors. Titles: Senate passes tax bill with major wins for real estate.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess I could read some of this. The legislation includes a permanent extension of lower individual tax rates, a permanent mortgage interest deduction, protections for like-kind exchanges, 1031, I guess they're talking about, and enhanced business income deduction, and a temporary expansion of the state and local tax deduction cap. Guys have any thoughts on that? Have you dug into this?
Yeah, we could spend a whole day on this. Obviously, I think you have an administration that is very much business centric with a strong real estate background. I mean,
Yeah.
100% bonus depreciation, like you were talking about, James. Some of the things for like kind exchanges for 1031s, making the opportunity zones permanent. That will be massive in our world. The QBI, the 20% bonus for QBI. There's so many things in there. If I were getting started out, I think I would become an expert on the tax code so I could preserve as much of my income moving forward as possible. It's insane. I have a friend who this is what he does, and he did a 4-hour podcast the other day just on a few proponents of the bill.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that'd be worth listening in for 4 hours, right?
Bring your coffee.
Yeah, you could save a bunch of money.
Yeah.
James, did you have something to say on that one?
Yeah, I think the impact will be really profound, and it will be most people will feel it in a really long-term perspective. But in the short term, I think opportunity zone is a big thing that will be impacted, and also the tax ramification for some real estate, especially some enterprise investors. But I think in the long run, this government is really more like a business oriented, and so I think it definitely helps real estate investors in the long run.
Yeah, could definitely use some help. Seems like we're always under attack as investors and landlords.
Yeah.
Good to not be on our heels. What's that, Paul?
You're on the real estate side, but it sounds like from what I've heard from a lot of people and what I've read that NAR was very instrumental. So their voice was very well received when it came to working on the real estate portions of the tax bill.
Yeah.
They fought hard for it.
Yeah. Like internally, like I'm a real estate agent, there was a lot of debate over whether they were supporting us as agents. So they were taking a lot of arrows in the back from people, and people saying, "Oh, we're just going to get rid of NAR and not be required to join," But this is a good example where they're helping.
I think they delivered for you guys.
Yeah.
I think at this point, NAR has to do something because you get all this negative publicities and all this mega lawsuits. So, and also the Clear Corporation, that's like a very bad for their public image. So they have to, and this might not be purely an NAR's effort. I think there's a lot of enterprise investors, major corporate landlords. I think they also might be playing a big role in this all this initiative. So it's collective effort. But I would say NAR they can be quick at claiming credits, whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's a good pivot to our next article, actually, about clear cooperation, which you mentioned. So from Real Estate News, Compass, which is a brokerage, for those that don't know, real estate brokerage, has not and will not adhere to clear cooperation. So just to kind of define what that is, clear cooperation requires realtor affiliated MLSs to publish listings, properties for sale within one business day of the property being publicly marketed. So there's a bunch of debate over that's kind of heavy-handed, that we shouldn't be required to list it on the MLS. So Compass has jumped in and they're like, we don't believe in this. So they're taking some arrows in the back. A lot of, I don't know. I could get into this. Do you guys have any comments on this from your perspective?
You know, all of our industries, innovation and is created in a lot of this chaos and that disruptor type mentality. So I was reading about this leading up to the show yesterday, and I'm thinking, you know, to your point, they're going to take a lot of arrows for it, but I bet there's a lot of people who are going to tend to gravitate towards that too. If you've got more of that kind of rebel, fight the system type thing that want to buck back, I think for them, it'll probably, James, I mean, we know how brutal recruiting can be out there. This is probably a great recruiting tactic for them.
Yeah, I think so. It's interesting. I'm with EXP Realty, which is a huge, very like industry disrupting. I mean, we've changed not me, but I joined because I was like, man, these guys have it figured out. Yeah. And even it's like through the whole NAR settlement, we were like a voice. Leo Perea, our CEO, is just in there, just taking some arrows as well. But it's interesting because they haven't jumped on this bandwagon with Compass. I think the kind of the main reason is if you think about maybe the reason they're not going to be posting on the MLS is they want to take a listing that they've got with one of their realtors and share it internally and try to have another agent pick up a buyer and keep it all in-house basically. Mm-hmm. But the downside of that is probably hurting that seller because they're not out on the MLS and all of the syndicated sites that it goes out to. So I think it's more in the best interest of Compass. That's just an opinion of mine, but that's how I see it and why they're taking arrows, because other people see it that way. So that's kind of the breakdown.
Well, could you see another forthcoming class action lawsuit coming from sellers who end up listing with Compass and going, you didn't give us full market exposure because you kept it inside of your own ecosystem? Yeah.
I mean, we saw this coming even from the beginning of the first lawsuit. Like, okay, and this is kind of a specific thing with the clear cooperation and Compass, but yeah. And guess who's going to make a bunch of money on that?
There could be two sides of the story, right? I mean, yeah, there could be another mega lawsuit saying the practice was in a way like trying to protect the interests of the of the MS, not the interests of the grassroots consumers, because some people prefer privacy, some people prefer some exclusivity. Then you have to favor MS. So I think that's correct me if I'm wrong, James. So I think I read something that Compass CEO Rafkin was actually, I mean, on the air, not on stage, but was actually debating EXP's CEO regarding clear cooperation, because Compass was saying that, especially Mr. Rafkin was saying that MS was monopolizing the industry, utilizing your infrastructure, saying everything has to go through, MS platform. But on the other side, really not necessarily from a consumer perspective. But on the other side, like I think EXP and even Zillow was now standing behind NAR, was saying, this is actually, because I mean it's just been going on for like the whole century, right? Almost a century. So I mean everyone used to it, and this is the way it is. And MS, of course, MS want to keep the way it is. And I remember when this first China came up, that's way like around COVID times, right? The first came up, it just hot debate, and I heard like some friends from different MS groups, and they were just all some NARs, a different board. They were just debating heavily, and this being NAR adopters even was internally was a big controversy, and a lot of people object to it. But I think overall it's good for their management. It's good for MS. Whether it's good for consumers or not, or good for some brokerage like Compass or not, I'm not sure. We'll see after a year or two.
Yeah.
How this plays out. But I think consumers deserve something that's really fair, transparent, and it will be good for everybody. And maybe if they have some other alternative solution that better for consumers, better for MS, that might be better, right? But MS right now, they only look at the way they've been operating, and they were saying, oh, you have to stick with this, with our system. That's why it has to, within 1 year, everything has to be our system. So maybe that's the way they were doing, but there might be some new system come up later. It will help MS, but also help consumers much more. Like in Atlanta, that Elton John sell his house. I mean, it's like nobody knows Elton John. He knocked down like I think 4 or 6 condo units. He knocked down and then make it a whole. And nobody knows it's Elton John. So later, I think it didn't sell, but later when people know it's Elton John, a lot of people went there to see it, not necessarily to buy it, right? I mean, it's not good for his privacy. And so, right. I mean, there's all kind of situations. I think both sides has a point, like RefCon has a point.
Yeah.
But NAR has, like, from their perspective, they have a point too. So, I mean, let's see how it plays out.
Yeah. I'm sure this will pop back up one of our other episodes down the road. Well, cool. Let's jump to the next article from Detroit Free Press. Detroit sues blockchain real estate firm that owns rentals with hundreds of violations. I think we had talked about this one in another one of our episodes. Company's called Real Token. They're a Florida-based blockchain firm with 165 affiliates, and apparently they're neglecting these properties and the people that live in them. They're citing unsafe conditions like mold, broken plumbing, structural issues, fire hazards, and lack of basic utilities. There's a couple gals, they're seniors, and they said they were without water for months. So it's interesting, this whole blockchain based investing. Who's running these companies, right? And are they just doing a money grab, or are they, good landlords? Obviously, these guys are under attack because it sounds like they're not.
Well, it's like, I think these people, they are really good at packaging themselves. I mean, to be honest, the crowd ownership is not a new concept. They've been like starting 70s or even, I think early 60s or 70s. There's a lot of people, some groups already started doing co-ownership, right? I mean, you own like 1/10 of the property, and you share, like, maybe you can have like 2-3 weeks a year, time of this for this condo sitting on the beach. But basically, they packaging in ways that, oh, blockchain is a new thing. Yeah, of course, it's blockchain, but it's not purely this co-ownership thing. They just good at marketing or packaging it. So I think, like, there's some other blockchain apps, not just these two, but there's some other. I don't want to mention the names, but I don't want to market for them. But basically, first of all, I think there's only tiny, small fraction of market or investors would like to go into this co-ownership, because you don't have a word of say, and a lot of things is poorly managed because you own 1/10, but who actually will take the action? Who actually will do it? I mean, are those blockchain companies, are they really going to those condos in Florida and really taking care of the, like, immediate needs or tasks? Like, like if you're living in an apartment, you don't have water, or you don't have the water piping get clogged, or electricity has a problem, Wi-Fi has a problem. What do? I mean, you have to deal with it right now. You wait like a week or two or something like that. So
Yeah.
I think this is like it just for them. It's just a marketing blockchain. It's actually, I can talk more. Actually, we have another part of actually more profound, like really helping the fundamental part of real estate, but the co-ownership, it's not. I would say, if just say BlackRock own like 100 apartment buildings, and they let individual buy like a tiny small piece of ownership, but BlackRock run all the management, they take care of everything. I think that's relatively, for tenant, that's relatively you know you know risk less, because they know that this corporate own the majority, they are going to take care of it. But if you have everyone have like 1/10 or 100 of ownership, and the overall like management of this blockchain company was somewhere in Bahamas or somewhere in middle of nowhere, and they don't even care how things are on there. I mean, how the tenant can feel, when you rent an apartment there, just Paul, what do you think?
I mean, I think this has been something that we've been dealing with forever, be it blockchain just happens to be the delivery vehicle of how they're acquiring the property. But I mean, I think we've seen this with REITs over the years. We've seen it with syndications. We've seen it with large entities that own several investment properties. I mean, I think the underlying thing is how is the underlying asset being managed and how is it being maintained, and the quality of life issues for the tenant. I think blockchain is just, they probably think they have deep pockets and they can go after it. But I think, to your earlier comment, regardless of how you acquire the asset, how do you manage and maintain it, and what standards are you keeping up for your tenants to ensure that they have a clean, safe place to live in? Because we've seen this time and time again all over the country, and unfortunately, a lot of times it does happen to be in Detroit. But I just think blockchain just happens to be the delivery method of how they're funding and acquiring it. But the greater problem is who's managing the asset, what's their management philosophy, and why are these tenants living in these conditions?
Yeah, I look at this through the lens of syndications. So for people that aren't familiar, you're pooling money with multiple people, and you're buying apartment buildings or self-storage, that kind of thing. So this is a similar thing. I'm assuming, based on most of these like blockchain platforms, it's fractional ownership, where it's smaller amounts, like it might be $5,000, which opens it up to these investors that they don't have a background in real estate. They want to get in. They don't know how to do their due diligence on the operator. Obviously, like, these guys are under the gun because it sounds like they're not good operators. And with a traditional syndication, there's SEC regulations. You can raise through friends and family. There's limits to how many people you can raise from. Otherwise, you're raising from people that you don't know, but they have to be accredited investors. They've got to be making $200,000 a year or have $1 million in assets besides their home. Those kinds of safeguards are in place to make sure you've got investors that know what's going on. Where this is kind of, the Wild West. You've got all these people that they're pooling this money from that don't know how to do their due diligence, and so it sounds like the SEC hasn't gotten their grip on this platform. I think it's an amazing platform. I mean, to let the common man that maybe has $5,000 but doesn't have $100,000 to throw into a syndication, it kind of levels the playing field, but it's also opening up issues like this. So
Yeah, that's a great point, James. Yeah, don't get me wrong. So this definitely pros and cons. The approach definitely bring the level, the playing field for a lot of like some people has extra few thousand here and there, and then they can put it in the market, do something, which is a good thing, right? If it's well maintained, it's well planned, it's well managed, and that's definitely a good thing. But I think, and also like in terms of SEC, right? SEC is tied up. There's a lot of different issues they need to deal with. A lot of things in the market they have. So the blockchain side, there's a lot of things. That's why they're trying to crack down on the what's the company that sponsors the main stadium in that they're based in BVI. I forgot the name. But anyway, they went down. So it's a big thing because the blockchain side is not well understood. It's not well, so structures. A lot of people, especially from SEC traditional perspective, it's not the traditional security. So a lot of things is not well, understood. That's why. But I think President Trump is doing I should give we should give him credit of trying to put the a blockchain or crypto on a fair equal footing in terms of what's the regulation should be, and it should not really unfairly target it or should not unfairly burden it, but also should fairly being regulated in a way. But in terms of this. What the point you raise, I think this is great because ordinary Joe would not understand which area, which city, which town, what kind of property, which high rise will be good for them to invest. So, what property they can put in their 2000, and or maybe another property they can put it in another mall. So there's no way for them to. So they just randomly do this and that, right? And if this blockchain company was just kind of spammy, and then they might be losing this money. So that's why it's a good understanding, a good guidance is really key. That's why, like, we've been working on the radar since 2017. One of our first patent is smart matching for real estate transactions. So we can match people, we can match buyer to the best matching or the most appropriate properties. And if they don't have the financial capacity to buy the whole property, yeah, they can buy 1/10 of it or 1/50 of it, and then other people do the major management or something like that. But first of all, a lot of people don't even understand where they are. That's why now we're focusing this free home world, which is you buy overseas, right? Because a lot of properties overseas, different countries, is just the depopulation problem, just sitting there, and but we can help people, but. There's a language problem, the regulation, different governments, different local government has different policies, and nobody really fully understand. And also, which country, which area, what province, state, and what property is really good for you. So we can match people, we can guide them through. That's the thing. But I think in terms of crowd ownership, it will be a big trend going forward. Right now, it's just a small initial phase. But going forward, there will be more. I think the policy or regulation will be fully baked. Right now, I don't think SEC had any policy to regulate it. And in this situation, the lady doesn't have water. What the blockchain owner, what kind of responsibility they should shoulder? I don't think those people. They might be based in BVI. Nobody can do anything on them. But there should be something like coming up. Fully regulated, so people feel more trustworthy when they put it in your hardworking owned like 5K to it, and you will see benefit.
Yeah.
Well, and I think all of this comes down to consumer education. We deal a lot with syndications and primarily accredited investors, sometimes sophisticated, but they generally have the skill level and the knowledge, and they're putting in large sums. But to James' point, I love the fact for the people that don't have the horsepower, the financial wherewithal to come in and take down a property by themselves, but they want to invest in real estate. This is a great pathway forward for them, but they have to be informed, they have to be educated, and they have to be willing to take the time to vet where they're placing their money.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. Definitely the SEC, more regulation typically we don't like that, but
But these types of things are what leads to that type of regulation. I mean,
Yeah.
on the syndication side, we were on a webinar Wednesday evening, and they were talking, because now we're starting to see a lot of the syndicators want to be able to pay a commission or a finder's fee for people bringing in capital, and currently
Right.
that's not allowed.
Right.
And so that's one of these things that's weighing heavily. So when they can't do that, they're going to go look, and maybe we'll pivot over to a crowdfunding source where maybe there is a way to get compensated. And there's a conflict there. So it'll be interesting to see where this lands.
Yeah. We'll keep tabs on it here on the show. Well, let's go to our next article from Fox News. Might get a little political here. Resurfaced video shows NYC mayoral hopeful saying he wants to replace private homes with communal living. Zoran Hamdani, a Democratic Socialist candidate for New York City mayor, he's facing criticism from a 2021 video where he's talking about communal housing. So this is kind of up my alley with co-living. I think that's basically what they're talking about, like renting out homes, single family homes by the room. So so let me just give some background. Affordability is a problem, right? For rentals. Denver specifically had Pad Split, which is a big company like Airbnb that does the marketing, vetting of tenants, residents. They came to Denver specifically to open up their, I think, 21st market or something about a year ago. About the same time, our governor passed a law saying that statewide there's no limit to how many unrelated people live in a home, because most jurisdictions have some kind of a limit, 3, 4, 5 people, where a co-living home might have 6, 8, 10, 12, just depending on the size of the house. And it's solving the affordability problem, because you can, as an example, here in Denver, you can rent a room for $800, maybe $900 around there. But a studio apartment is going to be $1,400. 1-bedroom apartment, $1,600. So, like I've had people that were living in their cars when it was hitting -7 Fahrenheit during the winter, that they were living in their cars. They could afford, barely, but they could afford renting a room. So it's solving that affordability problem and the homelessness problem. So this mayor sees that as the solution, but he's taking arrows because there's backlash with other residents that live in the same neighborhood going, oh, I don't like having all these people living in one house. So that's my kind of overview of what's going on there. You guys have some comments on that?
I think he is so controversial right now. They are looking at everything they can with him. I don't necessarily disagree with the communal living thing, because you look at states like New York and California, specifically Northern California, where housing affordability is a huge issue. And then you do have the issue with all the people who are displaced from housing. So I see some value in that. I just think with everything else, he is, to your point, James, he is taking arrows from all different angles. But if you're going to do it, what's the plan to execute it? Because also, you look at it as a single family property owner or an investment property owner, what's that going to do to impact the value of your home and the neighborhoods in which you invest? So there's so many different dynamics to this.
Yeah. We've got another article that we'll just kind of combine here, calling him out also, because he was promising to freeze rents. That's a whole other rabbit hole we could go into about rent control, and also raising taxes on the wealthy. So those talking about that kind of stuff, that's gonna cause some controversy. So
He's the gentleman that barely beat Cuomo, right? He got I think Democrat nominee there. That's a gentleman, right?
I'm not sure.
I think James, I actually think he won pretty substantially over Cuomo. I think.
Oh, really? Okay, because I didn't read the news exactly because I thought like initially Kumo was supposed to be win the primary, but he won it. But yeah, this is interesting. Remind me of I have some friends from Venezuela. They were saying, their house was after people left, their house was sitting there, and then the government just encouraged people to just move there, live there. They're saying if the house is idle, you live there, and then you become the owner. So I think they were using that as the way. And also, like I was actually happened to be watching some programs last night about they were talking about when China used to be a, there used to be a they call it like the government who lost the civil war fled to Taiwan is a nationalist government. So it used to be like like business oriented, like proper justice system. But when the communist army win the civil war, so they let a lot of people. If you own like if you're living, I was watching this. This is like ironic. This guy was saying his family used to live in this house like 3 floors, and they just let ordinary people come in, like 4 families, like every family take 1 or 2 or 3 rooms. So basically, this 3 floors being split it into like 5 different units, and people cooking on the doorways or whatever, and I stare. Like, it's just weird. But that's how I think in that's why it's easier to be targeted saying, oh, you're communist, you're socialist, whatever. So it's easier to label some people that way. And it's hard to say, if he's elected, we'll see what he's doing. I think there's a pros and cons. Some of the policy he might be saying might be durable or might be helpful, but it could be have another side of the story that might have some negative impact. So, like say, President Biden did something good, but I think President Trump also did something also relatively, in certain ways also good for some, but there's always pros and cons of different things. So we'll see how things plays out. But it just like there's a big problem like saying LA. If you in downtown area, you see all kind of problems like people just camp on the downtown area with different tents. And if in San Fran area along Stanford, like they have a big like a soccer field or whatever, and along the main, I think El Camino, I forget. There's all the campers, that some people just rent out the. If you have big RV, you just rent it out because you can have a power generator there. People just live there because along the main road, and they instead of renting a house, they just rent an RV there and just live around the main. So there got to be some way that government can help. But I mean, if you do too much, then people label you as a communist, right? Socialist. But if you don't do anything, that means so it's hard to say. I mean, it's like I think both sides, like both Democrat and Republican, has a point, but it just like we got to have a balancing certain way.
Well, and I think a lot of times in all this stuff too, so we're getting all the little political sound bites and the clips, but what's going to be the underlying policy of how this is going to be administered and how are they going to actually do it? Because are they actually going to have some sort of policy in place that will be enforced that benefits both sides? Because I mean, if you look at this just on soundbite 30,000 feet, this is truly capitalism versus socialism, and that's how both sides are coming at it. But I know, and I think, James, we may have talked about this in a podcast last year, but because you do business, I think, in Baltimore, and wasn't there something or somewhere in Maryland where you were having to deal with squatters' rights and getting people out of a property that was taking you a year?
Yeah, that's a big topic. And actually, matter of fact, I wrote a book called The Next Gen Real Estate Tech. And right now, we're actually working with some groups, some communities in Atlanta, like some homeless or underprivileged communities. It's a big problem in the major metro areas. And there got to be something that need to be done to help people. And actually, we're partnering up with some builders. We do like 3D printing houses and to help people. But it won't solve everything, but it has to be gradual steps, little by little. And like the first pattern we have, the smart matching. I mean, we can match people based on their capacity, based on the capability, based on their preference or personal needs or living styles. But for homeless, what do you do? I mean, some people has expertise or some skill sets, but they cannot get a job or they couldn't find a job. They were thrown on the street. They got to be on that some way that society can help them, right? I mean, certain things. And if you put them in a temporary place, like I heard like in LA, every time the election or there's something, they put those people in a temporary place to look better or whatever. Or maybe not necessarily LA, but some other. There got to be some solution there. You know, we're trying to find something, but it just like I think it's a collective effort.
Yeah, but all too often I see when you're seeing all these campaigns and all these primaries and stuff, you know, I feel like a lot of times they're pandering to a constituent base because that's their people. That's ultimately who's hopefully going to get them elected into office. So how do you find that balance? Like in his article, you know, he talks about all landlords care about is making a profit on their property and not finding housing solutions for people. Well, if we can't make some sort of a profit, nominal or otherwise, why are we doing it? And we can't be housing people for free, and we can't be taking losses on our property. So I think, you know, getting a better understanding of where they're wanting to go with this would be really interesting. Because to me right now, it's all politics. It's all sound bites. It's 3-second videos. It's headlines. Tell me your policy. How do you plan to roll this out? How do you plan to implement it? How do you plan to protect everybody? Because ultimately at the end of the day, so is the city of New York going to just buy those properties at fair market value from the current owners and take them out, and then they're going to be responsible for administering that? But then what's going to fund the administration of that? Because they've already got one of the highest tax bases in the United States. Are you going to pack additional taxes on top of it? Because I think back in May or June that Los Angeles just passed another quarter. They just packed another 0.25% onto their sales tax to help fund more homeless initiatives, which never seemed to go anywhere. So I would love to see somebody come to the table with something that benefits everybody and both sides of the equation. So maybe we could come to the table and talk about it versus being so divided one side or the other.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also the local government, they have to plan it very well. I was studying the city planning in Naples in Italy, because there used to be a lot of historically there's a lot of crimes there. So the local government's very interesting. They plan some buildings, very interesting architecture, like those kind of not really pyramid, but something like that, communities. And then it's good. I mean, a lot of underprivileged, families, they get to, they move there. It's I'm not sure was it free or maybe very low price. But then because it's not planned, it's not like forward looking, not visionary planning. So a lot of families, they live there, it become a crime center in a way for some of the buildings. I mean, there's a lot of crime happen. Those young kids, they don't have a job, they get together, do a lot of bad things. So, I mean, there need to be a good planning, right? I mean, that's the thing. It's good to just put a mass, facility where those underprivileged or even homeless people can stay. But what they will do when they stay there, is anything you can help nurture their some jobs or doing some services and foster a positive life back on the right track. That would be good, right? But if you see, like I saw those those videos, like what happening in that neighborhood, I feel bad. I mean, it's a beautiful city, but because certain planning, it's good initiative, but it just like some steps down the road, it didn't follow through or didn't, and then something bad might be happening.
Well, and I think I go back in and I look at it from a systemic standpoint. So I think I want to say the governor of New York, her name's Hochul or something of that nature. She was speaking the other day because she's very upset about the new tax bill that passed and some of the cuts that are going to affect her state. And she came out and she gave some number like 30 to 40% of her state was going to be affected by the Medicaid cuts and how horrible that is and how we can't do that. So from a private individual who gets up and goes to work every day, I turn around and look at that and go, has the leader of your state, the governor of your state, what are you doing to increase economic growth, create economic opportunities, bring jobs to your state so you're not dependent on the federal government to take care of your constituents and your people. And I've seen that state time after time after time shoot down big industry, chase off big industry, do all these things that will create great white collar household formation jobs. But yet then they turn around, they've got their hand out to the federal government going, we need more funding because we've got issues because we can't take care of our people. So it's like, are you part of the solution? Are you part of the problem? And now all of a sudden we start to see the federal government tightening up and this funding going away, and all the states are going, we hate you. We can't stand your policies because they directly contradict ours, but we can't survive without your funding. So I find this to be a really interesting dynamic.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's take a break and learn about one of our partners.
Are you worried about where your money is headed in today's unpredictable market? At Accelerated Capital, their investors tell them that safety and security are their highest priorities. They want to wake up every day knowing their hard-earned money is working hard for them. In the best interest of their investors, Accelerated Capital carefully vets every opportunity, knowing that most of their investors want to avoid risky strategies and stick with more boring but proven asset classes and strategies. Accelerated Capital's team of seasoned real estate experts and financial strategists value long-term relationships and transparency. They're also there to help investors find a fit for their own personal goals. Accelerated Capital has options for both accredited and non-accredited investors at any stage of their investing journey. Visit AccelerateMyCapital.com to download a free copy of The Astute Investor and join their Legacy Wealth Collective Private Investor Club. Or click Schedule a Call to book a short Capital Accelerator call today. To get started, visit Accelerated Capital at AccelerateMyCapital.com. That's AccelerateMyCapital.com. Accelerated Capital. Accelerate your wealth with alternative investments.
All right, let's get back into it. From MoneyWise via Yahoo Finance, real estate CEO warns of growing exodus as people have given up on California. But where are they going? It's a long headline. Yeah, I think if you're paying attention, you know that a lot of people are leaving. They cited high taxes. Already talked about that. High housing costs and restrictive policies. So, said census data shows 690,000 people, almost 1 million people, left in 2023. Most going to Texas, Arizona, and Florida. So, for all those reasons, because of the difference. It says also median home price is near $860,000. So income requirements are around $213,000 a year just to afford to live there. So we're kind of seeing that with Denver too. Oh, were you going to say something, Paul?
My state has certainly been one of the benefactors since COVID of the mass exodus from California and Washington, because we are truly one of a very few handful of very conservative states. So we have seen a mass exodus. Matter of fact, I have a friend who we do a lot of business, and we call him Gavin the Giver, because every time he sold more real estate in Idaho in the last 4 years than any other realtor did. But I mean, you look at the cost of living and everything that's doing, and it's putting such a burden on the back of his people that are getting up and working every day just trying to survive. I understand why people are leaving there, and I talk with a lot of these people, a lot of the parents, the things that their children are being exposed to in schools and things of that nature. It's not how they want to raise their families. So they really are at kind of a interesting point right now. Is I think they're probably one of the most divided states. And we saw that in the election, with the exception of some very few politically powerful pockets of California. They really flipped the script in the last election as far as blue versus red.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a great point, Paul. And but actually, this is kind of interesting though, because I have some friends, and family members, and the school there become very competitive because the education system there, public school, private schools, they really encourage diversity, and also they encourage people's creative thinking. So in terms of education, I think the education in California is relatively different, a more like a unique side compared with a lot of other places. So some families, they even, I heard like some families, they prefer their kids to graduate from high school so they can have a higher, what they call it, like a skill set in certain areas. But some families, they prefer their kids to graduate high school in other states because they think they can actually be able to go to better schools because of the different states that's the situation. So it's really interesting from that perspective. But I personally, I have friends, they after COVID, yeah, they moved to some people in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and Alabama, and some. I have some friends. They actually, accommodating San Fran, and they end up living in South America because it's remote working, and it's very cost effective, and it's very creative working environment there. And our system coming up, the free home the world, actually we help people for remote working or expats. We help them locate a country or area or city and property that's ideal for their expat life or remote working, and it depend on the situation, different housing types, different. But I think it's like everyone's situation is different. But overall, the tax burden in California is really high. I mean, I heard like everyone you talk to them, they will tell you, I pay like 10% tax. Most people say 10% tax for state income tax, and they say it's not worth it. But for some people, it's worth it. Some people, it's not worth it. And also the property tax, right? It's not based on the overall universal level. It's based on when was the last time the house was bought, and maybe the house was bought by 50 years ago by 200K and now worth 2 million, but they were still paying the tax based on the 200K. So that's another thing that a lot of things, I think it's pros and cons. There's a various things that need to be considered for the local governments, but I don't know. It's hard to, even for like a governor Newsom, right? I mean, it's like for him, I'm pretty sure he has a lot of ideas, but even for him, he cannot like change quickly, So.
Well, he tried to be moderate for about 3 weeks when he did his podcast, and then went right back. So he gave it a shot.
Yeah.
So what's interesting though is I think for all these states that are getting this mass influx, Florida, Texas, Nevada, Idaho, all these outlying states. So like here we have a massive influx of Californians coming in. But they're still deriving their income because they're working remotely or they're pensionees from California. So we have the benefit of them coming into our marketplace, but we don't receive any of the income tax. So they still utilize all of our services. They still need medical. They still need emergency services, law enforcement, all those things. And for us, they have, because they're coming from such high cost areas. So when they sold their home, they had massive amounts of equity. So our housing market exploded since 2015. The home price, the median price here has tripled, and wages have not kept up. So we have, for local people, affordability is a major crisis. So we have a lot of out-of-state people that have made housing unaffordable for the locals, and yet we're not collecting any of the income tax that they generate. And so over time, it'll be really interesting from a macroeconomic standpoint to see how all these states that are getting these mass influx are going to deal with this.
That's a great point. Hadn't thought about that. It's retirees. Wow. Well, hey, let's go to our next article from NBC4 New York. NJ, New Jersey, real estate investor and influencer charged in multi-million-dollar scheme. I'll just kind of read this. Cesar Humberto Pina, a 47-year-old New Jersey investor and influencer known as Flipping NJ, has been indicted for orchestrating a multi-million-dollar Ponzi-like scheme, laundering drug proceeds, and bribing a Patterson official tied to a development project. They're saying he defrauded dozens of investors by promising returns of 30% or more. That might be a red flag. Right? And misusing funds for personal and business expenses, and paying older investors with money from new ones. Hey, that sounds like a Ponzi scheme. Yeah, it's about laundering narcotics-related cash in a sting operation and offering bribes for zoning favors. Boy, this guy had all of all the things in play, it sounds like. And he's facing over 70 years.
Wow, he was a sophisticated influencer. So wow.
Yeah, boy. I hadn't heard about it until I read this article. He's
gee whiz, that's a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
I think it goes on all the time. You know, I think, and I mean, like you said, 30% return, there's a red flag. And I don't mean to be biased, but when I hear influencer, to me, that's automatically a red flag. So you're a Instagram or a TikTok guy who now I'm going to help you invest in real estate. That would right there for me, that would scare me. But that kind of goes to our earlier point about education. So many people are just willing to, they take what they see on TikTok or Instagram because they're so impressionable, and they'll throw their hard-earned capital behind that. And that's where, unfortunately, that's where the need for more regulation comes into play to prevent these sorts of things.
Well, shows the power of being an influencer and leveraging these platforms.
Yeah.
You know, but use your power.
Do good things. Just
for good things. Yeah. James, you got any comments on that?
Yeah, it's nowadays this kind of influencers. You see all kind of people. Some of it's good initiative. They help people be more knowledgeable. You know, spread some information. But some of them just purely for their own self-interest. Right? It's like, but if you're just promoting some like normal products, $10-$20, you know, it's like okay, but it's like real estate investment is a big thing. Some people like their blood money. I mean, they work 10-20 years. They have like extra 20K and or 50K. They want to put in some place where it really help their retirement and help them live better, you know, in the long run, right? It's not like, you know, and then they use that money. And it's bad. There's always some good people, some bad people, and you know, it's law has to really fall. And I think there's some loopholes for him. You know, otherwise, it won't be that easier for him to keep on doing this and such a large scale. And if somehow people can find out, detect, like in an early stage, to have less victims, or better. It seemed like this guy did it in a very large scale, and it's just like, what's the name? Flipping New Jersey. I mean, that's like, and to be honest, I'm a member of some association, real estate investor association. There's a lot of those names like that. You know, there's one guy from Colorado, Denver. He keep on coming to Atlanta, give talks, something like that. Very bold names, and some people fulfill it because, you know, you work like 2 jobs and then some extra money. You want to put in some investment, and in real estate, most people feel it's, you know, steady. But how do you do it, right? How do you put it? If you know, put the money with him, but you don't know what he will do. You know, he did some flipping before, you know, make some money, but you don't know whether he will keep on using your money properly down the road. So there's got to be some balance and checks. And I think that's some laws or regulation has to, you know, keep up with all those things. But there's always bad people, so we have to be aware.
Yeah. All right, from Benzinga via Yahoo Finance, Jake Paul closes one of the largest real estate deals in Georgia history with a $39 million purchase of a 5,600 acre ranch. That's a whopper.
Wow.
It said 30 million of that came from that pay-per-view fight with Mike Tyson. So
I really like my money back for buying that fight, by the way. So,
yeah.
He started out as an influencer, if I remember correctly, didn't he?
Yeah, well, his brother is also an influencer, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, I kind of out of that world. I forget what he's known for.
They're both great marketers. And I think his brother has a sports nutrition drink that's done well. And obviously he's done great with the fights. But so I guess that somewhat contradicts what I said a moment ago about the whole influencer thing, because I think they're out there they've launched amazing platforms and they're making money, and they're doing it the right way, at least so far. But yeah, be curious to see what they do, I wonder if he will try to take this massive ranch and try to figure out a way to monetize it.
Right. I was reading, it was like the house itself wasn't huge. I think it was like 5-bedroom, 4-bath or something, but probably some outbuildings. He says he plans to wake surf, hunt, build a racetrack, grow food, and enjoy the natural sanctuary as part of his growing portfolio.
Yeah, this is interesting because I live in Georgia. I'm in Atlanta, but I drove past that area. Like when you go drive south, that area. There's always a lot of people has big ranches and a big large parcel of land. But the thing how do you deal with it? I mean, is that for some good for the society, good for humanity, or just for the personal pleasure or whatever? I think he was planning for some hunting lodge, or maybe trying to publicize it and become a commercial hunting place.
Oh yeah,
With a pay fee for go there hunting.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that might be something, but
lodge,
I don't know. I mean, it's just like I think price wise, he might feel like he's getting a good deal because with that land and with that with that house, the house wasn't but in the southern in the south, a lot of plantation it's like that, just like those kind of 5 or 6 bedroom. It was a mansion a long time ago, but now you can still call it mansion because there's also some small houses for like some supporting some assistants can live there, whatever. So I think it's good to be a resort, but again, everyone has different needs. If you're looking at like become a commercial, like a hunting, that might be a business, but everyone has to look at things differently. Whether this will be good for you or not, it's definitely, and it depends on the people. So
sounds like he invests in quite a bit of real estate. So either he's a real smart guy or he's
I think he bought something in Costa Rica, right?
Puerto Rico,
yeah. So, but that might be just for his personal living, not exactly for investment or for some commercial usage or whatever.
Yeah.
We actually we wrote a book called Using the Next Gen Tech to do for a smart property purchase, and we break it down to different categories: prime residence or renting or second home or vacation home, or for investment. Investment will be what kind of, like, is that just for renting or for some different business? And then we use some AI models to help you project, the revenue coming. So it's very interesting because there's a lot of different scenarios. If you buy like above 10 acre or 50 acres, you have all kind of different choices, right? You can keep one part your prime residence or vacation property, but you can keep another part as some kind of commercial development. But what do you do with commercial development? That can be a lot of different purposes: warehouse, apartment, or tourism, or whatever. So it's just like you have to project very well from a number perspective, and you have to find what is the best for you, for your investment, and for the society, for the neighborhood, and for for the nature or as a whole, right? So it's hard to balance. So you have to see everything before. But I guess a lot of people, they just jump. They say, hey, 39 million, it's a good deal. It's like this big parcel of land, I buy it. But they haven't think too much first.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, let's take another break for our next partner.
It's finally time to effortlessly attract new clients. Learn more at universemediapublishing.com.
Are you looking to elevate your business through exceptional content? Universe Media Publishing is your gateway to success. We understand that in the world of business, content is king, but not just any content. Your business deserves content that captivates, convinces, and converts your audience into clients. At Universe Media Publishing, we specialize in crafting SEO-rich web content, persuasive copywriting, and marketing copy that resonates with your audience. We don't just write, we engage, we connect, and we deliver results. Imagine your brand's voice amplified, your message crystal clear, and your presence dominating the digital landscape. That's the power of partnering with Universe Media Publishing. Don't let your business just blend in. Stand out, be heard, and make an impact. Connect with us at Universe Media Publishing, and let's turn your vision into reality. Visit universemediapublishing.com today. Your story, our expertise, together, we'll create magic.
Okay, back to the show. From United States real estate investor, Massachusetts Inferno exposes hidden dangers in senior housing investments. It says 9 seniors were killed when a fire tore through the Gabrielle House assisted living facility. Boy, that's not good.
It's tragic.
Yeah, it's sad. So the event signals soaring insurance costs, heightened regulatory scrutiny, and a wave of lawsuits for owners of older facilities. So, no bueno. I know there's a lot of money to be made in assisted living. I've got a buddy here in Denver that's just gone crazy. He's got so many doors, properties, and he's a good person that does things right, cares for those people, not gonna let things slide like that. And obviously there's regulations they have to abide by, but you also have to be thinking about it like, hey, maybe there's no regulations, but still want to make sure your people are protected. So there's, like I said, there's a lot of opportunity. The silver tsunami is here, basically, right? Like
We're in it.
we're in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty sad because I used to, I worked in a company after I graduated, I got my master's degree, and I work in a company, we have a facility in Fall River. So I drove there many times, and it's a really nice place, and people are very nice there. So it's a tragedy. But I think that a lot of senior house, I mean, it's just like the management, that's the thing. There's a lot of things you don't take like pre-active, steps to make sure everything is well managed, and just people tends to be reactive, not proactive. That's a problem. That's why, we were actually asked by some folks in Hong Kong or some other, to help them because old people living high rise there, and they want to be more proactive, and in terms of there could be some leaking, some pipings will affect the whole building, from the 20th floor all the way to the first floor, whatever, right? And there's a lot of things, actually you can use AI to have some projections. There could be a potential fire hazard or some flooding potential or some other. If it's a hot summer and it's AC might be broken down for a day or two, it will be suffering for the seniors. So a lot of things actually can be proactively managed or prepare, with with some projection, with some AI, like that's why we have some features like that. But I think a lot of some houses, like the management is in old mentality. They haven't put all those things, in perspective. So yeah, it's pretty sad. It's really sad. Yeah, Fall River is a really a beautiful place. So it's sad to see that happening there.
Yeah.
Well, I read through the article yesterday prior to the show, and I still didn't see that they had determined what the cause of the fire was yet.
Hmm.
I mean, and it's truly a tragedy, but is it something that was purely accidental? Was there faulty equipment? Was there something deferred maintenance issue, or was it truly an accident? Because I mean, you look at the structure itself, and it's not highly vertical, so it's very expansive, but it looks like the entire facility ultimately ended up burning up and then come back to, I managed hotels for years. And so we did extensive accident planning. I mean, we did after 9/11, we were doing terrorism risk assessments, ways to evacuate properties and things like that. So it would be interesting to kind of understand, what the cause was, how quickly it spread, what were the training protocols, were there things that could have been done to potentially prevent the loss of life. So it's truly tragic, but I would love to get more detail on, what may have ultimately led to the fire. And from the looks of the pictures, I was able to see the entire structure burnt, and it looked like it was 2 stories, and it was a wide structure. So where did the fire start? How did it spread so quickly? To James' point, were they kind of doing it the old-fashioned way, where they're minimally staffed and they're not meeting state requirements for staffing per residence, and therefore they couldn't properly evacuate them?
Yeah. I think with assisted living, they've got to have sprinkler systems, right? That's just kind of a basic.
I would hope.
Yeah.
So in that perspective, this is really interesting, Paul. This is a really good point. Like, in that perspective, you got to give the Chinese communists some credits, because they have monitors everywhere. Basically, in one way, it's for the public safety, but in another way, it's also good for their monitoring, whatever, for their monopoly, whatever, right? So, I mean, there's some good things. Maybe we can learn from it. I mean, it's, why we don't have that enough, cameras, and also you have to tie it up with a lot of AI models to it, so we can project, say, hey, based on this pattern, there's certain. And if you have enough cameras in the senior center, you can even project these maybe some certain residents there might have tendency of certain issues, and you can proactively do something. But now they're just like old facility; they don't even think about revamping it or whatever.
Right. Well, and in today's world, are they overburdening the electrical system? Because when that building was built, is it meant for all the electronics that we utilize today, along with all the electronic monitoring services that seniors need? I mean, you would think there code violations that are going on there, and at that point in time, are the municipal inspectors making sure that the requirements of the facility, or the requirements of what takes to run that facility, does the electrical load support all that nowadays? Think of how many different devices that we use for monitoring health and things like that. And is that, when that was built, does that meet the current needs?
Yeah. This just reminded me, one of our co-living houses, we had a gal lose her mind, like long crazy story, but she left her bedroom door open, and the owner of the property walked in, and she had candles, open flames, and that's in our list of no-nos. That had nothing to do with us. She just was breaking the rules, but heck, that could have burned down the whole house.
Yeah.
Like, woo.
Smoking in bed.
Yeah, right. That starts a lot of fires.
It's a real thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Switch to Zen. I actually bring that up. So when we're onboarding people, I'm like, hey, do you smoke? Smoking's allowed outside, not in the house. Like, if you want to get your nicotine in the house, get Zen, or go to Costco and get their lozenges. Like, that's the cheapest way to get nicotine. Then you don't have to worry about breaking the rules or burning down the house from smoking in bed.
We had a guest in one of our hotels one time who was a great gentleman, but he was actually disabled, so he's wheelchair bound and he was on oxygen. And he would roll out to the front of the building so we were not smoking. I walked out there one day smoking a cigarette with his oxygen.
Wow.
I thanked him greatly for his patronage and let him know that he was no longer welcome at our hotel after his stay concluded. So he's like, no, I'm not going to quit smoking. And I'm like, well, you're not going to do it here anymore.
Yeah.
So
crazy. Yeah. Well, let's go to the next article from United States Real Estate Investor. Devastating Texas floods exposes failures, real estate at risk. We're talking about the July 4th floods in Texas. Killed 134 people, leaving over 100 missing, and destroying more than 38,600 homes, many of them uninsured. Then, of course, property owners are now facing skyrocketing insurance premiums, stricter underwriting, and declining property values, pushing investors to embrace climate resilient construction and portfolio diversification. Easy for me to say. Boy, that's. Did you guys see video of that? Like, I saw just enveloping a whole house underwater.
And the video that we did see, it just came on like gangbusters. You couldn't get out of the way fast enough.
Yeah, just full on flash flood.
So,
usually that's in Arroyos, canyons or something out, but right through these homes, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just so weird in my world with everything I do to think that there's a bunch of uninsured homes out there. Blows my mind. But yeah. I see it every now and again. I have investors who have homes that are completely paid off. They're like, I don't need to carry insurance on it anymore. And I'm like,
what am I thinking?
You don't need to, but I'd highly recommend that you do.
Yeah. I mean, they're cash flowing because it's paid off. Just put that into your insurance. Some of it. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, I can't. Self-insured. Yeah, right.
Sure.
Yeah.
And what's FEMA going to be able to do in this case? I mean, what's their portion of it? Because weren't they in a 100-year floodplain?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think the city planning, a lot of those local government, they don't even have proper system that they can precautionarily prepare for every scenario, right? I mean, South Florida used to be just dry, hot. Nobody would think about can get flooding like this. But it can all happen. Like in Central Europe, there every summer, almost every other summer, there's a big flooding in some part of Germany or Czech Republic. They get flooded, and all kind of thing might happen. So I think in terms of you have to prepare. There are a lot of different scenarios that and how do you reduce it to the maximum possibility you can to but obviously this time, I mean, because I think people in Texas used to be easy, whatever, and everything is pretty laid back, and they never think this kind of situation. Similar thing to like northeast, like a northwest. There's a lot of things that people will never imagine might happen. What way they do at this time. So I think we need to have a very systematic research and study, and then the government has to prepare, and then also the real estate investors, they also need to be knowledgeable. If you buy a big warehouse or big apartment building in that area, now you're it's all gone, right? I mean, and the insurance company is very bad. They trying to find a lot of excuses to not so you have to be prepared on a different scenario. That's why I say when you buy a real estate investment, it's a big project. It's not just like this person, he pays 39 million. I mean, but a lot of the times you have to calculate, you have to plan, you have to look into every scenario what might be happen. So some AI or some technology will help you, but you also need to look into every situation and then what and can bring, any contingency plan. How do you deal with it, right? That's that kind of thing. So I think when you deal with some investment, especially large scale investment, a lot of homework need to be done. And technology is definitely here to help.
Yeah, they talked about diversification. I mean, that's one way of kind of putting a stopgap. Don't buy everything in Kerr County or whatever,
Yeah.
right? It might. It's tough though, because there's economies of scale, like buying apartment buildings or buying a bunch of single family homes in one county. It's like, oh, I can use those economies of scale and cash flow more, but the flood took out all of my properties. Like, yeah, so might want to buy maybe even in California.
Yeah, no, like after the area, like forest fire, right? I have some friends living the Pacific Palisade area. I mean, just even right now, they can move back. And what do you do with your property there? And now it's just like flat. And just like, and some people just say, you just sell it, or you're going to rebuild it, or you're trying to be fire, using the fire retardant material or what. But even with that, some people say, when your forest fire come, it was still damaged, a big part of it, whatever, right? So, but the government doesn't have those fires. But I remember I was in there, like I was in Santa Monica once in October, and we saw a fire from Palisade. We saw like from the distance the Palisade, the fire come up, but then it was this. I think it was just it was put out like in an hour or two. But this time was just obviously was not even fully prepared, because normally in January there was normally a raining season, and this year there's no rain that time. Mm-hmm. So trying to imagine if the fire just started and it happened to rain that week, then it will be all gone, right? Because there's no rain that whole month. That will make it worse. So that's why that's same thing in Texas flooding. I mean, if it normally doesn't happen, it just happens. So how do you deal with it?
But what's your emergency preparedness? What are your systems and structure in place in case these things happen, knowing that they most likely won't, but then all of a sudden you have a situation like this where it actually does happen, and they don't have the systems and the infrastructure to help alert their people and to deal with this. And it's truly tragic. I just hope that, you take, be it Palisades, Hawaii, Texas, what we saw in the Carolinas. I just hope that with all these things coming, we can figure out a better way to work to come up with systems and things to mitigate it. We're never going to prevent it, but how do we mitigate the damage, the loss of life, and make where these things are not as catastrophic? Because Mother Nature, I don't think we have any control over that. We're going to get what we're going to get on any given day, but how do we learn from these things and move forward so we can try to mitigate that risk?
Yep. Okay, let's go to from Valley News. New Hampshire developer who is admitted to fraud charges has a long trail of projects she abandoned or was forced to drop. Robin Alexander, 63-year-old developer from Manchester, New Hampshire, is admitted to state and federal charges after leaving a string of failed projects and investors with millions in losses. Known for promising community-focused redevelopment, she instead misused over $3 million from 2018 to 2024, diverting investor funds for personal travel, groceries, and unrelated ventures. Oh boy. Her most infamous failure was a 217-acre school redevelopment where she defaulted on a $21.5 million offer after her financing collapsed. So that looks like they're going to bar her from future securities dealings. There's the guardrails.
She's not a quitter.
That's a good one.
Yep. She's going to be forced to quit. not of her own accord. Oh, boy.
Wow.
there's no lack of news items in this, which sucks because it really, it hurts us as investors and, people putting deals together with investors. They see this stuff in the news and they're like, oh God,
we all get painted with a broad brush as you can't trust the industry, and it's wrought with fraud and corruption. But looks like I looked at this last night. I mean, she's done this numerous times over the years. It's like, how does this, in today's world, how does this not get vetted out?
Right.
Even by the principals that are standing behind it. I mean, looks like she had some pretty big cap investors in there who were very sophisticated. They have resources for these things.
Yeah. I know, we've done some syndications and did background checks on everybody that was involved. And, something popped up on one of our guys. So we had to say, hey, you have this background. We're going to have to move on without you. So, because it reflects on all of us.
$50 for a background check would have saved a lot of grief here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's too bad. I just can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah. Some people taking huge risks. I mean, like that other guy facing 70 years. Like, is it really worth it? Like, you can make lots of money in real estate investing without scamming people and risking going to prison for 70 years.
Legitimate money, and you can. Well, so you mentioned, James, you do syndications, and we've done a lot with syndications. One of the best things you can do in the world is perform, because your reinvestment rate multiple goes up significantly.
Yeah.
And what do we want? We want investors for life. So if we do what we say we're going to do, we deliver the product and we deliver the end result. It's not hard to go back and say, hey, we've got another project. Would you like to? Well, of course we do, because you performed on the last 1, 2, 5, however many it's been. But that's that grab it all now and run away mentality, which is I don't get it. We want our investors. We would love to have 100% reinvestment rate because we're doing things the right way.
Yeah, it's just swimming upstream. Just do the right thing. Yeah. Well, hey guys.
And this is all New York, New Jersey, New Hampshire. So what's with new? Anything with new is not working.
Right. Good point.
Yeah.
James Wang, did you have a comment on that one before we jump into our fun news item?
Yeah, this is another story that, it's just some people. I remember I saw something like one guy in New York. Actually, he lived in Rhode Island now, and his grandparents left him land somewhere along island. It's never developed, and it's a real thing, right? It's just a true thing. And then one day his neighbor called him, and then his neighbor said, "Oh, I didn't know you started building your beachfront property." And say, "Hey, I didn't build nothing." And it turns out that someone with the same name in South Africa sold the land to some guy, and according to the county record, it's a guy who owned it, but it's just the guy's same name, but it's a different. So, there's all kind of fraud that might be happening, but this lady, I don't know how she did it. She already been caught before. How can she do that? And this property was like, it's just so bizarre. It's like 217 acres, like a redevelopment, and a loan for 22 million.
Mm-hmm.
This just how did she pull it off? It's just weird. Was she purposely? She was thinking to do something, but then she couldn't, manage to do it, or she purposely misled everyone even from the beginning. I don't know, but this whole thing was, yeah.
Well, and I read that it was a school redevelopment. So are there any government municipal funds there? Again, who is watching over these things? To your point, James, anytime even if I to do a builder, just to build a home, we do a lot of vertical construction lending. You want to buy a development or you want to take down a lot, we're going to approve you. we're going to do a full background check on you for a $400,000 home.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just like, and the tools are out there. Go to this website, fill this in, we'll get a report, authorize it. And it's just interesting when you see these massive numbers and then you see these little tiny things that could be done to prevent the whole thing.
Yep. Yeah. Well, let's jump into our fun news item from Fox News. Humanoid robot performs medical procedures via remote control. Using this Unitree G1 robot. I think that's a Chinese company. I think I just saw that in the news the other day. They're equipped with robotic hands and remote teleoperation. So the robots successfully perform physical exams, emergency ventilation, intubation, and ultrasound guided injections. And that's sophisticated, right? It's pretty cool.
Pretty cool. I wonder how their bedside manner is.
As good as some other doctors, I'm sure.
Probably sometimes it wouldn't be very hard, so good for them.
Yeah.
Warm hands and good manners.
Yeah.
It's really pretty cool.
I think this is really interesting to read, to see the news about those. We got to give some credit to some of those Chinese people, like entrepreneurs. I mean, they are very creative. I mean, regardless of whatever the situation in Asia, but some of their entrepreneurs are but I think to survive, they always try to find a way to, think out of the box, right? I mean, I saw like in some New Year gala, like they have some like a dancing by the robots. I mean, it's just very sophisticated dancing movement, and the whole squad, a whole squad of those robots, they dance all together with the same movement, and they throw something, and then the one hand, and then the other hand catch it. And this like a medical was going to a new level. I mean, this you do a, like operation. Here, we need to have all kind of like NIH or like have whole bunch of regulation before you can even think about doing some experimental testing, right? And they will just go ahead do it. This is really going to a new level.
Yeah.
Especially like I remember a long time ago, when I was doing a different technology startup, that time like they were saying TechCrunch was having an article say one company was trying to do some remote surgery using some doctor on one side, one state or one city, and just use some movement or cursor, and then to operate a person on another city. But that one was, I think, later was just totally experiment, and they couldn't even operate on a real person because NIH was. But I don't know how those Chinese, the government will say on those. I mean, but obviously they're very, like very adventurous to try this, because you try this on a real person. Wow, that's just just to a new level. But it might be good in a way that you build some data for the future generation, right? Always has to be the first one to do it, and then gradually you help the humanity, do. So it's good. I mean, I think that, but it just like from technology perspective, you really need a big data to build a system that's so small that later can really operate by itself. So maybe the Chinese side, they already have a big data. They can afford to do that, but I don't think we can in US we can do that, because right now our healthcare data is all fragmented. The same thing like on real estate data, right? Like different brokers, they have a lot of users data, or some of that like agent have some data, and then this person sell the property, and then the agent doesn't keep track of all those data, and nobody like the property data. It's like what the county has is all the very basic. So it's like everything is fragmented. But to healthcare, it's just a new level. I don't know. I really have this really a lot of work for them if they really be able to pull this off. It's a lot of work because you need to build a big system and AI models that you can remotely operate. I mean, this is not a, yeah, this is more sophisticated than brain surgery. I remember Ben Carlson, when he was doing the primary debate, he was saying, "Oh, I'm a brain surgeon, and I know how like a like, which means like other people doesn't know, how to do things." But this is even, more. You have to have all the data. So you have to have the models. Then you have to be able to do it. So
Yeah.
Kudos if they really did that.
Yeah, I agree with James. I think it's fascinating, but the modeling and the analysis that has to take place, because no two people are going to be the same. So all factoring for all those different variables per individual, be it your height, your weight, your body composition, all those different things that would have, like to intubate somebody. That's incredibly difficult. My first wife was a hospice nurse, and that is an incredibly difficult thing to do, and to do it correctly without hurting them and damaging them. To think that a robot can make that analysis and analyze that and do that correctly without damaging the patient is incredible.
Yeah.
And do it in a timely manner too.
Sounded like it might be remotely controlled by a human, but even then, like, you disconnect. Like, they're probably just looking at a screen. And
yeah.
So my question is for you guys, how do you picture maybe robots with building construction? I mean, we got a lot of humans involved in building stuff. We already have, pouring concrete buildings, 3D printing and stuff. Like, I can see them scrambling around, laying out wiring or whatever,
We're helping finance a company right now that they build structurally engineered panels using AI for homes. And it is insane. They can build about 1,000 linear feet of an 8-foot wall every 90 minutes on these lines that they use. And it's all AI modeled, and you put everything in there. And so this facility that they do, they can turn out a 1,500 square foot home, the exterior walls for it, in literally about 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And it takes 4 people to run this plant.
And Paul. So Paul, let's talk off the line. There's a lot of things we can discuss. We are actually working together with a partner. They are doing 3D printing, and we're planning, like, building some communities in the Southeast, with totally AI empowered, from the initial design to actually, I'm not sure whether the design part, but like a BIM and also schema. There's a schema and also so BIM system. Actually, the BIM's co-founder is actually talking to us, and he started a company called Schema.ai, and it's actually trying to use some AI to advance or even improve the design, probably new building design to a new level. But there's not really so we can bring real deep AI to it to help them even go further. But this partnership with our building partner is more profound. So basically, we can come in from the initial design to optimize the modular building, 3D printing, and all the things. So instead of taking a 8 month or 10 month or 1 year to build a house, we're talking about like a few weeks, right? I mean, or even quicker. You can get a whole house done. And then the process, we can use AI to optimize it, schedule, material, everything can be streamlined. So then, when the house was finished building, or even started building, we can use our system, because we have the pattern. We can generate a listing within like 10 seconds. We can generate a new listing based on a lot of customized, and then we can match to buyer. So we can put in MS, much more efficient, and then based on the existing way of selling house. A lot of work, a lot of manual effort, but through our system, agent can do much easier, and we can sell the property, much faster. So from design, build to sell, that's the whole procedure we can streamline, we can optimize. So we're definitely working on this. And to James' point, the robots, I think 3D printing is one thing, but you can term 3D printer as a robot in a way, but there's a lot of things like say when you have a first floor, second floor, third floor, and you can have different robots to do certain things. Like say if we do 3D print, the first floor I'm finish it, and then I need to let it wait for a while, wait until the ceiling is everything done, and then I started building on the second floor. But there's a lot of different modules that have to be added on. It's not necessarily from 3D printing, and all those things can be manipulated. Not manipulated, can be processed by robots, right? And different kind of robots. It's like when Henry Ford has a Model T, right? He doesn't have assembly line of workers, but in the beginning assembly line worker, but later become a more like machines can do a lot of basic things. And I think that's what it will coming soon. But it's just like a lot of, but people nowadays they are afraid of what this construction worker will go. Are they going to be losing jobs? No, I mean they can do more sophisticated stuff. I mean the basic part can be done by some system or machines, right? And then the construction worker can do things. It can build a more perfect homes, whatever, something like that. So
we always talk about massive shortage of houses. So this is a solution: speed to market, cost efficiencies that can bring. And what I'm looking at is these engineered products are in a lot of cases so much better than a stick-built home, because they are precision engineered. And so then you look at the speed with which they can come to market, the efficiency with which they can be put up, turn around, marketed, on sale. And that can, I see areas where this could help with that affordability issue, because we're going to bring so many efficiencies to the entire process. We should be able to bring the pricing in line to allow people to be able to afford a home and start on that path.
Yeah, very needed. There's an opportunity. Yeah. Well, guys, that was great.
Thank you.
Covers the news portion for the show. I'd like to thank our sponsors: United States Real Estate Investor Advertising, Accelerated Capital at acceleratemycapital.com. Reach out. That goes to me and my partner. Universe Media Publishing at universemediapublishing.com. And thanks again to our guests, Paul Anderson and James Wang. In that order, why don't you guys let people know how they can connect with you?
For me, I think the easiest way is if you go to verticalfundingcapital.com. That is my website. Or if you want to reach out to me, I'm old school, so I actually use my phone as a phone. So you can call me 208-794-2830. But those are probably the best ways. If you call me, I will actually answer my phone and we will talk to a live human being.
Great. James.
Yeah, so I'm my side is pretty easy. Just people can reach me at james at ieai.co, not com, and or you can reach me at our Twitter is X is ieai _co, IEA _co, and our LinkedIn is the company just IEAI-INC. So yeah, you can just email me James at ieai.co, and we'd love to exchange any cool ideas with everybody.
Fantastic. All right, thanks guys. Again, I'm your host, James Brown. Feel free to connect with me by going to Linktree/partner with James Brown. I've got a bunch of links on there. And if you want some help on your investing journey, book time with me, see how we can work together by going to jamesbrownrealestate.com/coaching. Also, huge thanks to our founder and producer, Antonio Holman with United States Real Estate Investor. Can do this without him. Follow and subscribe to This Month in Real Estate Investing at thismonthinrealestateinvesting.com or on your favorite podcast app. Now, if you run into any interesting news that you want us to cover, events, or have suggestions for expert guests, feel free to email Antonio at UnitedStatesRealEstateInvestor.com. And remember, When one door closes, another door opens to financial freedom. See you next month.